Hi, it's Joy Haynes of FestSaltLake, and I'm standing here actually just a little starstruck because something happened I didn't realize was about to happen.
What?
But this guy right here, Michael Sinterniklaas.
Perfect.
Did I do that right?
Yeah, stick the landing.
Was a voice of the lead male character in Lou Over the Wall. He played Kai, which was an animated film, a Japanese film that had the world premiere of the English language version here at Sundance in Salt Lake City, programmed through the kids program, which is programmed through Utah Film Center. And it was, fantastic. What a great movie that was. I mean, the kids were just so into it. And
Yeah, I love watching it with an audience, especially like the right demographic, and people seemed really taken by the film.
I think they were.
A nice reward.
You could tell from the talkback because there were such great questions.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something just briefly that I caught about how long did you have to do the voiceover on this film?
So we had about 3 weeks to take it from rough translation, then adapt the script, and then cast everyone, and then record everyone, and then mix it. It was all about...
And you had to like change it for like colloquial stuff. And like, so are there cowboys? Because there's like a cowboy on that movie, the grandfather of the fish company.
There seems to be a guy that is into American culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was actually quite more diverse than I expected it to be for like a Japanese animated movie.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah, I think Yuasa's got a lot of influences. And actually, each character, I think more than a lot of anime that I've worked on, seems so specific. And each character seems like there's something familiar. Like I recognize things and people I know in the characters that he animates.
Yeah, well, I think there was something for everybody in that film because there was a lot of like funny stuff, and then it got a little dark at moments. It did, and I feel like it just kind of like covered all the bases, and really it was interesting to learn that in Japanese culture that the myth of mermaids is actually a little bit scary because that's not how we have it here.
Right. If you go way back in our culture, there's the legend of the siren, and the siren song luring like sailors to shipwrecking. So that sort of was my parallel for the music influence in Lou and the mermaid's relationship to music.
So did you do the music too?
We didn't
miss that part.
We had to re-sing stuff, but we didn't redo the music.
Yeah.
At first, we weren't sure if we were getting the clean music without Japanese lyrics. So
I see.
There's one song where Kai's father is singing, and that is in the music and effects track in Japanese. So that was left in there. So that story could go either way. It could be his father. It could be the cover that his band had.
But you could have done the music too, because guess what? You guys, he's not just an actor. This guy's a director too. And I learned that in like a previous interview that somebody just like happened to like throw out to mention that he also directed one of my top 5 favorite films of last year's Sundance, which is My Life as a Zucchini, which was also a kids' film, but it did premiere here in the Salt Lake City Public Library. We were here and we were at your talkback. That also is a very complex film and deals with very real life issues.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is just so necessary. I mean, I think it's like there's so few kids that have this textbook storybook life, and like you need to see yourself. Like we need that kind of representation on screen of like the different experiences that children might have growing up.
I think it's really important. I think being able to recognize yourself is really important. It's one of the reasons my studio. So I have a studio, NYV Post, that we produced all these dubs, and we're really big on diversity and casting and telling true stories. We just did a movie about a deaf person being bullied, and we actually cast a deaf actress in the lead, which...
And this is not animated.
This is animated.
This is animated.
It's a Japanese film called The Silent Voice. But I really think telling, like in a really honest way, stories, especially of children, it really matters. And I love stories that are told from the kids' perspective that are not the way kids behave when they know they're being watched. It's just kids with kids talking about what's really going on. And
Which is, of course, because that was what was happening, because these kids were in sort of
an orphanage.
An orphanage of sorts. And there was a girl whose mother had been deported, and a boy who came from an abusive family, and a little girl whose parents had, her father had molested her. I mean, it was like some real issues going on, but it's not like make-believe. Like this is...
It happens, unfortunately.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way you dealt with it was just so compassionate and so real, and just at a level that I think was accessible to children, the age of the children that need to see that.
Yeah,
So,
and working with the children to tell that story is where that really comes into play. I mean, my own story, I moved around a lot, and so I could relate to Kai in that way in this movie. But when you cast a kid, like, let them tell their story.
Yeah.
And I think it's important as a director to give them a safe play space and then let them tell the story. And for all the kids, like, we all knew what was going on in Zucchini, and they dove deep and told the story from their perspective, which I thought was
such
incredible.
a great film. It's available on Netflix. I just rewatched it over Christmas because I'm a little bit of a fan. So please watch that film on Netflix. And where are we going to be able to see Lou Over the Wall?
I'm not exactly sure. We got to find. I know it's premiering
So I
here.
hear
and then
at Sundance, like, films get bought.
they
so
do. I
it's
think we already have distribution because
Okay.
there are two licensors who got Lou Over the Wall, and they both wanted us to dub it. Also, like, who could do a good job real fast? It was real fast. It was real fast.
3 weeks fast.
3 weeks fast. So I know G-Kids has the rights for the U.S. and
Okay.
they're going to be releasing it in a home video, but also theatrically, I believe.
Okay.
I hope.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I hope. Like, they usually do.
We don't normally
like
get to see that, but
a theatrical
and I'm
run,
sure
but
Utah
I'm
Film
speaking
Center
out of
will
turn.
be showing it again here in Salt Lake and in their different. They have screening venues in different cities.
Yep.
They bring us these Sundance movies all throughout the year, which is just fantastic. So,
Yeah, lucky you.
For people that don't get to actually go to Sundance, get to see the films in not only in Salt Lake City but in cities north and south of Salt Lake, and then we also have the Tumbleweeds Film Festival, which is for kids.
Yes, I have a
you.
scarf from
You have a
Tumbleweeds.
tumbleweed scarf?
I have a tumbleweed scarf.
I
and
have
love
a
it.
tumbleweeds badge.
Oh, I don't have a
Yeah,
tumbleweeds badge.
I know. Well, that's because I'm extremely important.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have 2 badges.
I know.
I have 1.
Well, you are a director and an actor and a movie star. Anyway, so thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.
I digress. That was supposed to be 1 minute, but I couldn't help myself. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
It was my pleasure.